our last panelist is Virginia State Senator Bryce Reeves. In 2011, Senator Reeves defeated a 28-year incumbent to win his current seat, and he serves on 4 standing committees, as well as acting as co-chair of the Military Caucus. Prior to that, in 2007, Reeves was elected chairman of the Spotsylvania County Republican Committee, where he increased voter turnout and fundraising. Before his time in office, Reeves was a United States Army Ranger and detective for the Prince William County Narcotics Bureau. He is the president of Bryce Reeves Insurance and Financial Services, Inc., and also the Reeves Asset Management Group.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right, make sure I'm a military guy. I'll make you all stand up. We'll do some PT. Listen, it's my honor to be here. I'm sorry I was running a little late, but I got here on time. Those of you who've been to Washington, D.C. and Virginia before, we have a transportation issue here. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle decided that they would solve that by tax increase this year. So anyway, we just finished up session. Before I get to that, though, I have a few, I guess I'm the minister of announcements today. I am the co-chair of the Emerging Leaders Program. I was a recipient last year. And let me tell you all, that sponsor, that is money well spent. I am fairly new to politics. As was announced, I was elected in 2011. A little brief bio. I ran for a local office in 2007 in a 3-way race, and I got beat. And I'm one of those people I don't like to lose, but I also like a challenge. I ran against the number 3 guy in the Virginia Senate, who was due to be probably the most powerful person in Virginia as chairman of the Finance Committee. And by the time we got done with the race, we had made 166,000 phone calls. We've knocked over 39,000 doors, and that's probably a little bit more than that. And we spent about $1.2 million. But it is the second time, I'm proud to say, in Virginia history since Reconstruction, since the Civil War, that Republicans hold all 3 bodies in the Virginia Senate, is one of those. What that did for us in Virginia, some of you may know, we made Saturday Night Live with some of our legislation and some of those other things, but I think we've got a great governor, Bob McDonald, in the governorship. He was the chairman of the RGA, has done some great things, and he's kind of led the way. And we are a 2020 Senate, and our lieutenant governor is a Republican. And I think he voted the most times last session that a president of the Senate has ever voted, 36 times. So that can tell you kind of where we are politically within the General Assembly. We've had a lot of reform. We've done a lot of legislation to attract jobs. We've carried tort reform, school choice. This year we had some pretty controversial bills. The governor wanted to end his term this year with regard to changing the way our school system conducts business. And we're focusing on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. One of his key pieces was we have 6 failing schools in Virginia right now that have failed accreditation 5 years straight in a row. And that's unacceptable. We don't have unions in Virginia, but we have associations, and our teachers' associations fought it. That bill, probably the hardest they ever had, but we got it passed. The other issue that the governor wanted to take up this year was transportation. I am sad to say we couldn't stop it. We couldn't stop the train. We all worked very, very hard and diligently to try to put a transportation plan that would adequately fund what we needed here in Virginia, but it was a bridge too far for those of us who are in the conservative caucus. So I'm sad to say we have just passed the second largest tax increase in Virginia history with regard to transportation. Not that we don't need to address transportation. Virginia is probably in a better position today because of Governor McDonald, his administration, and some of the legislation that we've been able to push through the last 2 years. But we're also in a very precarious position right now with regard to those folks that are just down the road with that little term called sequestration. Virginia is unique in that we have more military installations than any other state. Close to second is probably Florida, California, and Texas. So as you can imagine, right now, Virginia is poised to lose approximately 207,000 jobs, all of those within the Northern Virginia and beach area. Lucky me, I'm on the committee to try to stem some of that. So it's a full-time job for us. We're a part-time legislature. We meet either for 45 days or 60 days. We process anywhere from 2,800 to 3,000 bills in those times. And I think we do a fairly good job of getting those things through. It's a unique job. I absolutely love what I'm doing. But we have our challenges, and I know some of you all are year-round legislators, and I don't envy you. I do actually appreciate the fact that we have the opportunity to meet, get our bills done, and get back to our day jobs if we can do that. Some other key legislation that we passed this year, we passed a bill that I actually carried for parental rights. And in Virginia, we've seen an encroachment on parental rights where for a long standing we've had parental rights as a fundamental right. And we recently had the Supreme Court came down with a decision in 2000 that said parental rights are not a fundamental right, but they're a ordinary right. And I carried the bill, and a colleague of mine from the House carried it, and we passed it this year. Believe it or not, we passed it with bipartisan support. So there still are some social issues out there that I think, by and large, our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, a lot of them, when it comes down to those basic rights like parental rights, are in agreement with those. We also passed some legislation you may or may not have heard of with regard to our Medicaid expansion. We originally bowed out of that, but we're trying to set up a framework in which we can control the process from the federal government. So our Attorney General, you may have heard of him, Ken Cuccinelli, is running for governor against Terry McAuliffe. So I think the phrase in Virginia is for lovers of elections. We have an election every year in Virginia. So this year it'll be Virginia and New Jersey again. But with that, the Attorney General came down at the last hours of our session and said that the framework in which the leadership had set up for Medicaid expansion was unconstitutional. So I have no idea where this is going to go for us. We voted not to expand Medicaid. I hope we continue to hold that line, but I'm afraid that there are probably some folks on my side of the aisle that have weak knees, and I'm hopeful that we can still apply pressure for them. I want to back up just 1 second and get back to the Emerging Leaders Program because I totally missed this. For those of you who are sponsoring today and doing helping GoPac, let me encourage you to come to the Emerging Leaders Program. We've got some great things planned, and I'm really excited about some of the things. One of the things I'm really, really, really excited about. Are there any Yankee fans in here?
No.
A Yankee fan. All right. Well, I need some help to get us to the Yankees game, and it's only gonna cost $10,000. That's it. So I am, in all seriousness, looking for a sponsor to help us with that to do that. But I think there's some other neat things I'm not at liberty to talk about, but I think it's going to probably be the best emerging leaders class that we've had. There's 20, I think that's right, David, isn't that right? 20 state legislators throughout the country that have opted in to take the course, and I think it'll benefit them greatly. So if you're interested in doing that afterwards, come see me or come see David. We'd love to sign you up for that. And David might tell you what the rest is. I've been sworn to secrecy, but it's pretty cool. A couple of more other things that we passed, and some of the other states that we modeled some of our legislation on, is photo ID for voting. And you would not believe the amount of resistance we got to pass photo ID for voting. We had my colleagues on the other side of the aisle said that voter fraud doesn't happen. And as you know, we're a purple state now. I'd love to say we were still a red state, but we're purple. But we're under attack, like Wisconsin, like all the other states. In fact, this year, our House of Delegates, who has a supermajority, is under attack from Howard Dean, especially in Northern Virginia. He's pledged $750,000 to remove five of my counterparts from the House of Delegates this year in Northern Virginia, just right outside of where we are. And so, sometimes in Virginia, we have a lot of the folks that have been in office come through Virginia quite often. I think I saw President Obama 5 times last year coming through Virginia. So I wish we could have said we pulled for Virginia, but your comments from earlier are very true. I served as a deputy chair for the last presidential campaign, and I don't think I really saw what was in front of us. And as we move forward as a party, we need to come to the realization that we need to change the way that we conduct business. As a former Army Ranger, we use some unconventional methods in order to track down bad guys. And if we continue to play that direction that we always have and fill out the Scantrons and do those sort of things, we're going to continue to lose. You know, I don't know any other way to say it. The reality of where we are as conservatives, as Republicans, we got to get going. And we have to get to those other communities for those folks who, for lack of being politically correct, are white males, and get out there. And I'm going to tell you that if we don't, in the next 10 years, we're going to be extinct. The reality is, 5 months before we even thought about opening up a campaign headquarters, I saw what I thought was a light blue Obama poster in a window in my area. So I got curious and I walked in. And I just happened to meet 3 people from California, then they're 20-somethings. And then I met this other person who came out who said they were the manager of the office, and they didn't want to tell me what the office was. And eventually I got it out of them that they were 3 staffers from California, and the guy that was in charge of the office had worked for Maxine Waters, and they were there full-time, year-round, with their iPads, and they had been functioning. This office had been working year-round, working in my district. And I didn't realize really the impact of having that office there and them working the whole time, where we were in Virginia, in our district. And I'm telling you, I forget the organization we're talking about. We have an organization in Virginia. It's called Virginia Organizing. And they have about 30 young people, and they pay them about $30,000 a year, and they work 24/7. 365 days a week, and they actually have a lobbyist, a paid lobbyist in Richmond, and they work at the local level, and they take up every local issue, and they hit every supervisor and city council member on every issue having to do with water runoff to you name it, and they bring it forward, and they bring these coalitions, and they're out there. Now, I don't know of a Republican organization that is like that, period. None. At least in Virginia, I can't tell you of one. And so those are the hard realities of what we're trying to embrace in Virginia. We've come up with some plans. Those of us who are fairly new into some of these things are trying our best to try to think outside the box to embrace those things. But there's 2 things we can't do. 2 things we can't fund it by ourselves. We just can't do it. It takes too much money. And so the other thing we need is help. Because if Virginia flips this year, I can promise you with certainty that it'll just be a checkpoint to where the rest of the country go next year with regard to your elections. if you look at Virginia, you look at the history, you look at the barometer of where they are, we're a conservative state, but I will tell you the missing creek from Northern Virginia and Washington D.C. in this area is it's killing us. It's absolutely killing us. One last thing I'd like to just touch on is just to tell you a little bit about what GoPack means to me personally. Because I think it's important for those of you who sponsor these events with GoPack to really understand the impact that this organization has on leadership and those of us who are moving up, so to speak, into leadership positions and probably will move on forward. The amount of effort, time, energy, and training that we had in our Emerging Leaders Program, I couldn't have got anywhere else. And it's really set the marker for me to be able to do, to be a better leader within our Senate caucus, to pick up a chairmanship, to do those sorts of things. So it really does give you the framework and the base in which to be able to conduct business. And so as GoPack moves forward, David and the group reach out to you, I would ask that you sacrifice a little more. Because, you know, we have a class of 20 now. I don't know how big David wants to grow a class. But I will tell you, the folks on the other side of the aisle are getting it. They understand they own the federal government now. The opportunities to get that back are getting harder and harder. And so they understand in order that they know who they're fighting. And they know that their fight is coming from the state houses. They see it. Trust me, I've sat down with Mark Warner and Terry McAuliffe and my colleagues on the other side, and you know, after a session over a cold beer, and we discuss these things. And hand in hand, they know what they're doing. Trust me. And so they're going to start reaching out, and they're going to take one state at a time, one Commonwealth at a time, and they're going to flip the state houses, and we're going to have a harder and harder and harder time to get them back. So I would tell you, as this Emerging Leaders Program goes forward, that you would look at your organizations, find out where you can sacrifice just a little bit more, because I will tell you, one extra colleague that's gone through that training might be that one vote. Because I was that one vote. I won by 86 votes on election night, over 50,000 cast. 86 votes, and we changed the way Virginia does business. One vote is so important. So let me just encourage you to continue to give, because it's critical to GoPack's future and to the future of our country. Thank you.